Hi guys, we are going to have a look today at the provisions of sections 123 to 127 of Companies Act of 2013, which are going to be the provisions related to what? Declaration and payment of dividend. So now let us start with the basics first. Okay. Yes, we are going to try and do like a rapid revision. So keep up the pace with me. Okay. So let us see what first exactly do you really mean by dividend. So dividend, when you use the word dividend will include what? Dividend will include interim dividend. That is the only definition of dividend given under the Companies Act of 2013. So dividend includes interim dividend. So dividend would be basically of two types: final dividend and interim dividend. What is the difference between final dividend and interim dividend? The dividend which is going to be declared by the members of the company, okay, at the annual general meeting would be referred to as the final dividend, and the dividend which is going to be declared by the board of directors. By whom? By the board of directors between two annual general meetings. Between two annual general meetings will be considered as the interim dividend. Okay, so dividend, how many types do we know about? Yes, two types. Yes, which are the two kinds? Final dividend, okay, and which dividend? Interim dividend. The one which is declared at the AGM by the members of the company, would be referred to as the final dividend. Interim dividend is declared between AGMs by whom? By the board of directors without consulting the members. It can be declared by the board of directors without consulting the members, is referred to as which dividend? Interim dividend. So dividend basically would be of two types: final dividend and interim dividend. Does the definition of dividend given under the Companies Act say a lot about what is dividend? No, it just says that dividend will include interim dividend. Okay, so now after looking at the definition of dividend given under section 2 clause 35, which says dividend includes interim dividend, now we are going to start with the provisions of section 123. Okay, so 123 is going to initially talk about what? Sources of dividend, sources for the purposes of declaration of dividend. So now what are the sources for declaration of dividend? So first source which we are going to be talking about is profits of the company. Profits of the company. So when you say profits of the company, what are we referring to? Profits of the company for that particular year. Profits of the company for that particular year. So say if I want to declare dividend, okay, for the year 2021-22, okay, then how much ever profits I have made in this year, I can utilize that for the purposes of declaring dividend. So that is one source, profits of the company for that year. Okay, whenever you say profits of the company for that year, you will have to make sure that you are providing for this after providing for depreciation. It is going to be profit after depreciation. Okay, then profits of the company for any previous financial year, okay, after providing for depreciation, which is remaining undistributed. So whatever money, okay, which you have earned in the earlier years, say you have earned a certain money, okay, in the year 2020-21, in the year 2019-20, okay, all of this money which you have earned over here, the profits which you have earned over here, you have not utilized it for the purposes of giving dividend, and you have transferred it to what? You have transferred it to reserves. Okay, can you utilize this money also for the purposes of giving dividend in 2021-22? Yes or no? Answer is yes. Okay, so whatever amount of profits which you have earned for any previous financial year or years, okay, after providing for depreciation, and which is remaining undistributed, okay, you can utilize those profits also for the purposes of giving dividend. Or you could also use 1 and 2 both, okay, that is current year's profits plus previous year's profits which are remaining undistributed, okay, after both of these are after providing depreciation, you can utilize those for the purposes of giving dividend. Okay, so this is the first source. Then the second thing which you have to remember when you are calculating these profits is that you never include in these profits, okay, anything which is something which the company has not really earned. Okay, anything which is something the company has not really earned. So something which is a notional gain, okay, something which is a gain by revaluation of the assets. See, when I revalue an asset, I am saying like I had purchased a building, I had purchased it for 10 lakh rupees, and today the market value of the building, it says 70 lakhs. So 60 lakhs is my gain, okay, if I revalue the building. But have I sold the building yet? No, I haven't sold the building yet. So if I haven't sold the building yet, can I use this revaluation reserve which I have created? Can I use this reserve for purposes of giving dividend? Can I use this for the purposes of giving dividend? I cannot use it, because this is not money which has actually come into the company. This is not money which has actually come into the company. This is all in my mind. Okay, this is all in my mind ki, oh, the value of the building has increased. So can I utilize that? Can I utilize that for the purposes of giving dividend? The law says no. Okay, if the money has not yet come into the company, according to you the value of your asset has increased, you cannot utilize that for the purposes of giving dividend. So that is what they have clarified over here, that when you are calculating profits for the purposes of giving dividend, any amount representing any unrealized gains, okay, any amount representing any notional gains, any amount representing, okay, revaluation of assets, or change in the carrying amount of some asset or liability at fair value, okay, all of these things are not included when you are calculating what, when you are calculating profits for the purposes of giving dividend. Now why are you not including this? Because this is not money which has actually come into the company. If this money has come into the company, then there is something out of which the company can give dividend. So if this is money which has not yet come into the company, this is an estimate that, oh, this is the money which I can gain if I sell the asset. So those things are not yet actually there in the company. So you do not include them for the purposes of calculation of profits for giving dividend, for giving dividend. So that is one point which you need to remember when you are calculating the profits for the purposes of giving dividend, for the purposes of giving dividend. Okay. Then, so this is the first source which we have spoken about. That is profits of the company for that year, profits of the company for any previous years, okay, which is remaining undistributed after providing for depreciation, okay, and source 1 and 2 both. Make sure that you do not include any notional gains or any gain made by revaluation of assets. Okay, now let us talk about the second source. So the second source, okay, is not going to be always applicable. This is going to be applicable only in certain companies. This is going to be applicable only in certain companies where the central government or state government has given a guarantee. So to promote the businesses of certain types of companies, okay, say the company is in, say, solar energy or something of that sort, which is environment friendly, okay, so company, okay, such a company, to promote its business, for the purposes of promotion of the business of such a company, the government, that is either the state government or the central government, sometimes could give a guarantee that if the company is not able to pay the dividend, I would support the company, I will provide money out of which you can give dividend. Okay, now these are certain exceptional situations when this happens. But if the central government or state government has given a guarantee, can you utilize that money which the central government or state government has given for the purposes of giving dividend? Answer is yes. Okay, the government sometimes does that to promote a particular industry. Okay, so the second source out of which you could declare your final dividend is the money provided by central government or state government for the payment of dividend by the company in pursuance of the guarantee given by that government. Okay, yes, so if the government has given a guarantee, you can utilize the money given by that government for the purposes of giving dividend. Fine. So I think the sources of final dividend are clear. Yes, source 1 profits, source 2 money given by the central government or state government in pursuance of their guarantee. Okay guys, fine. Now, coming to the next part. The next concept which they have covered over here is the amount of money which is to be transferred to the reserves. How much money has to be transferred to the reserves? How much money has to be transferred to the reserves? So the law says there is no particular amount which is prescribed for the purposes of transferring to reserves. Okay, if the company wants, can they transfer the whole of the profits to the reserves? Yes. Is it possible? Answer is yes, that is completely possible. If they don't want to transfer anything to the reserves, is that also possible? Answer is yes, that is possible. So company can transfer what percentage of its profits to the reserves? Company can transfer what percentage of the profits to the reserves? Company can transfer whatever percentage of the profits for that financial year to the reserves as they feel appropriate. So this is the call which is taken by the board of directors. If they want a particular percentage to be transferred to the reserves, they will transfer. If they don't want anything to be transferred, then they will not transfer. Okay, there is nothing mandatory which is mentioned in the, there is nothing mandatory which is mentioned about this in the Companies Act. So how much amount has to be transferred to the reserves? Any amount which the company finds appropriate. Okay, yes, nothing is mandated by the act. Okay. Now, in case of inadequacy or absence of profits, in case of inadequacy or absence of profits in any particular financial year, okay, can the company, okay, still pay dividend, okay. So listen, okay, in a particular year, say in the year 2021-22, okay, in this particular financial year, say for example, company does not have profits. Either company has no profits or company has inadequate profits, or company has inadequate profits. Okay, that is how much ever dividend they want to give, they do not have sufficient money for that particular purpose. Over here, can the company still give, dividend? Yes or no? Answer is yes, they can still give dividend out of past profits, which have been accumulated. So whatever reserves etc you have, can you give dividend out of it? Answer is yes, you can give dividend out of it if in a particular financial year, you have no profits or you have inadequate profits, okay. Yes. We are not going to be solving a question on this because I have already solved a question on this particular concept, and the video of that is there on the YouTube page of mine. You can check that out. Okay, I'll just summarize the points because we are doing like a rapid revision. Okay, so in case of inadequacy or absence of profits of the company in any particular financial year, company can declare dividend. Out of what? Out of the accumulated profits. Okay, out of the accumulated profits earned by it in the previous financial years. Okay, which have been transferred by it to the reserve. So can you declare dividend if in this year you do not have? Can you declare your final dividend if in this year you do not have sufficient profits? Answer is yes. If you have reserves, okay, if you have free reserves, you can declare dividend out of it. But whenever you are making this declaration, the law does not allow you to freely declare how much ever dividend you want. You will over here have to follow, okay, you will over here have to follow the prescribed procedure given under the rules. You will have to follow the prescribed procedure which is given under the rules. And the rule which is going to be applicable over here, is Rule 3 of Declaration of Dividend out of Reserves. Okay. In the description, I will give you a link of the video wherein we have actually solved a question, okay, on the basis of Rule 3. Over here, now I am just going to summarize what the rule says. If you want to look at how a question is solved, I will give a link in the description. Okay. Now, what is rule 3 of declaration of dividend? Okay, rules saying. So, rule 3 of company's declaration of dividend rules 2014, okay, tells us in detail that which are the factors to be considered and what are the points to be considered whenever you are declaring dividend out of reserves when the company has no profit for that particular financial year, or the company has inadequate profits. So which are the factors to be considered? Which are the factors to be considered? So first part, rule 3 has got four subparts, four sub rules. Okay, so what is the first sub rule saying? The first sub rule says that the maximum rate of dividend which you can declare, okay, the maximum rate of dividend which you can declare is not going to exceed the average rate of dividend, okay, the average rate of dividend declared by the company in the immediately preceding how many financial years? 3 financial years. Okay, so whatever you have declared in the past, how many financial years? Immediately preceding 3 financial years. Okay, you take an average rate of that. Whatever is the rate, divided by 3. Okay, and that is the maximum rate of dividend which you can declare. So the rate of dividend is not going to exceed the average of the rates at which the dividend was declared by the company in the 3 years immediately preceding that year. Okay, but if the company has not declared any dividend in each of the 3 preceding financial years, then there is no average. No, 0 0 0, average is 0 only. So if the company has not declared any dividend in each of the 3 preceding financial years, then this sub rule is applicable or not applicable? Answer is this sub rule is not going to be applicable. So this is the first sub rule. Maximum rate of dividend is not going to exceed the average rate of dividend. Okay, declared by the company in the immediately preceding how many financial years? In the immediately preceding 3 financial years. Then after that, the second sub rule says that how much is the maximum amount which can be drawn from the accumulated profits. So from your free reserves, okay, that is reserves which have not been allocated for any particular purpose, those are your free reserves. Okay, so how much can you draw from that? So they have said maximum to the extent of 1/10 of the paid up share capital and free reserves. Maximum of 1/10 of the paid up share capital and free reserves. That is the maximum you can take out from your reserves. How much? To the extent of maximum 1/10 of what? Paid up share capital plus free reserves. So paid up share capital plus free reserves, okay, of that 10%. Yes, that is the maximum drawal you can do from the accumulated profits. Okay, then from the amount which is drawn, first you will have to deduct the losses incurred in that particular financial year. Okay, later we will see you will have to deduct if there are any past losses also. So after deducting the losses, okay, you will get a particular amount. Okay, then the last condition you will have to satisfy is the balance of reserves. After whatever withdrawals you have done, how much should be remaining left in the reserves? How much should be the balance part left in the reserves? So in the reserves, what should be left? Okay, should be minimum what percent of the paid up share capital? Should be minimum 15% of the paid up share capital. Should be minimum 15% of the paid up share capital. So these are the conditions you need to satisfy. Okay, these are the 4 conditions you need to satisfy whenever you are talking about what? Declaring dividend in case of declaring final dividend in case of absence of profits or inadequacy of profits. Okay, yes, so this is the provision of rule 3. Okay, going ahead, the company will have to make sure, see, this is the point which we discussed. The company will have to make sure that the dividend will be declared only out of what? Only out of the company's which reserves? Only out of the company's free reserves. only out of the company's which reserves? Free reserves. Okay. What do you mean by free reserves? Free reserves are the reserves which are not allocated for any particular purpose. Okay. So if I have like a capital redemption reserve, it is for a particular purpose. If I have a reserve for the purposes of redemption of debentures, debenture redemption reserve, then it is for a particular purpose. It is not a free reserve. So a reserve which is not having any particular purpose is a free reserve. Okay. And you can declare dividend in case of inadequacy or absence of profits only out of which reserves? Only out of free reserves. Okay. Now, going ahead, okay, company shall declare dividend. Company shall declare dividend when? Only after carried over losses or depreciation which are not provided for in the previous year or years are set off against the profit of the company for the current year. So if you ever have any past carried over loss, carried over depreciation, okay, then the past carried over loss or carried over depreciation, you will always provide for that first. Okay, only then will you provide dividend. Okay, only then will you declare dividend. Okay, yes. And one point which can be asked in a multiple choice question is that when you are talking about depreciation, you are saying now that profits, okay, after depreciation, profits after depreciation transferred to reserves. So when you are saying that you can give dividend out of profits which have been transferred to reserves after depreciation, in what manner do you have to provide depreciation? You will have to provide depreciation as per the provisions of which schedule? As per the provisions of Schedule 2 of the Companies Act 2013. You'll have to provide depreciation as per the provisions of Schedule 2 of Companies Act 2013. Okay, this can be a multiple choice question which can come in the exam. Okay, now going ahead. So we have spoken about which dividend? Final dividend. One more point I will have to tell you about final dividend. Yes, we have seen the sources. Okay, we have seen how the dividend is declared in case of inadequacy or absence of profits. Yes, one point which I have to tell you with respect to final dividend is that final dividend is proposed by whom? Okay, always remember guys, this is like a structure which you have to mentally incorporate. Yes, always remember, final dividend is proposed by whom? Final dividend is proposed by board of directors. Is proposed by board of directors. Yes, so board of directors will propose this in the which report? In the board's report. Board's report has to be circulated to the members minimum 21 days prior to the annual general meeting. Okay, in this board's report which is circulated to the members minimum 21 days prior to the AGM, board of directors are going to propose a particular dividend. Board of directors are going to propose a particular dividend. Okay, yes, and this particular dividend which is proposed by the board of directors will be approved by the members, will be approved by the members in the annual general meeting. Okay, if the members want, they can have a lesser dividend than what is proposed by the board, but they cannot say, oh, give us higher dividend. Board has proposed 10% dividend. Okay, board has proposed 10% dividend. Okay, members are like, no, we want 20%. Is it going to work like that? Is it going to work like that? Answer is yes or no. Answer is no. It is not going to work like that. Yes. I hope this point is clear. Okay. Fine. So that is the point with respect to which dividend? Final dividend. Yes. Proposed by the board of directors in the board's report, approved by the members in the annual general meeting. Yes. So that is the point with respect to declaration of final dividend. So we have covered basically all the points with respect to final dividend. Now we are going to be talking about the provisions of. Now we are going to be talking about the provisions of interim dividend. Now what is interim dividend? The dividend which is going to be declared by whom? The dividend which is going to be declared by the board of directors. Okay, in between AGMs. In between AGMs. So what do you mean by in between AGMs? Okay, listen. So AGM of this particular year is over. Okay. Yes. Then before the next AGM, okay, board of directors, if they want in between, to declare dividend, can they do that? Board of directors themselves they want to in between declare dividend. Company has done very well, profits are there in the company, in between board of directors want to declare dividend for some reason. Can they do that? Can they do that? Answer is yes. And the dividend which is declared by the board of directors in between AGMs, okay, in between AGMs would be referred to as interim dividend. Okay. Yes. So when is interim dividend declared? Between AGMs. And when I'm saying between AGMs, what would between AGMs imply? Between AGM implies that this dividend is declared either during the financial year, yes, or after the financial year is over. When does the financial year get over? 31st of March. But before the annual general meeting. So last date of the annual general meeting should be 30th September as per section 96. So between 31st of March and 30th of September, also the board of directors can declare dividend on their own. Okay, that would be referred to as the interim dividend. So when is interim dividend declared? Between two AGMs. And when you say between two AGMs, what does it imply? It implies, okay, it implies that it is declared either during the financial year, okay, or it is declared at any time during the period from the closure of the financial year till the holding of the AGM. From the closure of the financial year till the holding of the AGM. Okay, so that is the procedure for declaration. That is the rather time period for declaration of which dividend? Interim dividend. During the financial year or at any time during the period from the closure of the financial year till the holding of the AGM. Yes. So that is about the time period for declaration of interim dividend. Yes. Now going ahead, let us talk about the sources of funds for interim dividend. Now why is this dividend called interim? Why is the dividend called interim? The dividend is called interim dividend for the reason that it is declared between AGMs. Yes. Okay. So what is the amount which you can use for the purposes of declaration of interim dividend? What are the sources of funds? What are the sources of funds for the purposes of declaration of interim dividend? So first source is surplus in your P&L account. Okay. Yes, surplus in your P&L account. So whatever extra surplus is already there in the profit and loss account of the company. Yes, that you can utilize for the purposes of giving. Which dividend? Interim dividend. Then profits of the financial year for which interim dividend is sought to be declared. Yes, profits of the financial year for which interim dividend is sought to be declared. So over here, when will the second point come into picture? The second point will come into picture when, okay, company wants to declare dividend after financial year is complete, okay, but before annual general meeting. If in between this board of directors want to declare dividend, if board of directors want to declare dividend, then in that situation, okay, yes, if in between this board of directors want to declare dividend, then in that situation, this dividend, okay, can be declared. This dividend can be declared out of profits of the company for profits of the company for that particular financial year. Profits of the company for that particular financial year. Okay. Because profits are calculated already because financial year is over. 31st March is over. AGM is not yet held. So profits are already calculated. AGM is not yet done. So profits of the company for that particular financial year can be another source. For the purposes of declaration of what? Which dividend? Interim dividend. So what is the source of funds for interim dividend? Surplus in the P&L account. profits of the company for which interim dividend is sought to be declared, that is current year's profit. Okay, yes, because financial year is over, you have profits which are already calculated, you can utilize that for the purposes of declaration of interim dividend. Yes. Now the next point is going to be talking about what? Profits generated in the financial year. Profits generated in the financial year till the quarter preceding the date of declaration of interim dividend. Okay. So now this is an interesting point. Okay. Let us talk about this particular point. Okay. So one particular financial year is going to be having 4 quarters. Yes. First one from 1st of April to April, May, June to 30th of June. Then from 1st of July to 30th of September. Okay. Then from 1st of October to 31st of December. And then from 1st January to 31st of March. Okay. So now say for example, see how many quarters do we have? We have quarter 1, we have quarter 2, we have quarter 3 and we have quarter 4. Okay. So say for example, the company wants to declare interim dividend in the 4th quarter. Interim dividend in the 4th quarter. Okay. Then whatever profits company has made, okay, in the first 3 quarters, can you utilize those for the purposes of giving dividend? Can you utilize those for the purposes of giving dividend? Yes or no? Answer is yes. So whatever profits the company has made in the first 3 quarters, can be utilized for the purposes of giving interim dividend in the 4th quarter. So say company has made a 2 crore profit in the quarter 1. Maybe company has made a 5 crore profit in quarter 2. Maybe company has made another 2 crore profit in quarter 3. So 5 plus 2 plus 2 is 9 crores. Can this 9 crore be utilized, okay, for the purposes of giving interim dividend in the 4th quarter? Answer is yes. So that is the meaning of the third source which they have spoken about over here, that is profits of the company generated in the financial year. Profits of the company generated in the financial year till the quarter preceding the date of declaration of interim dividend. So whatever profits the company has made till the preceding quarter can be utilized for the purposes of giving dividend in the next quarter. Yes. So 3 sources of funds for interim dividend. Which were the sources of funds for interim dividend? Surplus in the which account? P&L account. Profits of the company for which dividend is sought to be declared. Then profits generated in the financial year till the quarter preceding the date of declaration of interim dividend. Yes. So these are the sources of funds for interim dividend. Okay. Now going ahead. Now the next point is an interesting point. Oh, see what are they talking about? They are talking about a situation where there is a loss, where the company has incurred a loss during the current financial year up to the end of the quarter immediately preceding the date of declaration of which dividend? Interim dividend. Then over here, can the company still declare interim dividend? Yes or no? Answer is yes. They can still declare interim dividend. See, listen. What situation are they talking about? We want to declare interim dividend in the 4th quarter. We want to declare interim dividend in the which quarter? 4th quarter. If we want to declare interim dividend in the 4th quarter, okay, yes, and if there is a loss up to the 3rd quarter. So over here in quarter 1, there was 2 crore loss. In quarter 2, there was 1 crore loss. In quarter 3, there was 1 crore profit. But overall, there is loss only. So minus 2 minus 1 plus 1 is there is a, yes, loss of how many crores? 2 crores. Now, if till the preceding quarter, there is a loss, till the preceding quarter there is a loss of how many crores? 2 crores. Can the company still declare interim dividend in the fourth quarter? Can the company still declare interim dividend in the fourth quarter? Yes or no? Answer is yes. Company can still declare interim dividend in the fourth quarter. That is possible. That is completely possible. Yes. Okay, but over here, one condition which needs to be satisfied, is that the maximum rate, of dividend, which can be declared in the fourth quarter, okay, will be not more than the average rate of dividend, declared by the company, in the immediately preceding how many financial years? In the immediately preceding 3 financial years. So if this is for the year 21, 22, then we will go and check how many financial years preceding 3. That is 20, 2021, 2019, 20 and 2018-19. So in 2018-19, okay, say the rate of dividend declared was 10%. In 1920, the rate of dividend declared was 15%. In 2021, yes, the rate of dividend declared was 20%. And if you want to declare interim dividend over here, but till the preceding quarter there is a loss, then what will you do? You will take the average of the 3 rates of dividend. You will take an average of the 3 rates of dividend. 10 plus 15 plus 20 divided by 3. Okay. So you will get an average of what percent? 15% of the dividend. You will get an average of what percent of the dividend? 15%. And that is the maximum rate of dividend you can declare as an interim dividend over here in the fourth quarter. Okay. Yes. This limitation is going to be applicable only if there is a loss in the company till the preceding quarter. Okay. So let us summarize that point once again. If the company has incurred a loss during the current financial year up to the end of the quarter immediately preceding the date of declaration of interim dividend, then the maximum rate of interim dividend which shall be declared, okay, is going to be, okay, how much? Average rate of dividend declared by the company in the immediately preceding 3 financial years. Yes. Okay. So that is the point with respect to which dividend? That is the point with respect to interim dividend. Okay. Yes. Now, going ahead, yes, once your dividend is declared, guys, always remember, company does not have to declare any dividend. But if the company does declare dividend, okay, it becomes a debt due from the company to the shareholder, okay, or to the member of the company. Okay, so once the company has declared dividend, including interim dividend, okay, it is not the money which the company can keep with itself. Okay, there is an obligation put over here which says that money shall be deposited in a separate bank account. It will be deposited in a separate bank account in a which bank? In a scheduled bank within a period of how many days? Within a period of 5 days of the declaration of dividend. Yes. So immediately, see, because the logic is once the dividend is declared, it is not company's money anymore. Okay. So that is why within a period of how many days? 5 days of the declaration. Within a period of how many days? 5 days of the declaration, this money will have to be taken and put in a separate bank account in a scheduled bank. This has to happen within how many days from the declaration of dividend? 5 days from the date of declaration of dividend. Yes. Okay. So that is another point which is covered over here. Also, to whom will the dividend be paid? Okay. To whom will the dividend be paid? So section 123 very clearly states that you will have to pay the dividend to whom? To the registered shareholder of the share. You can pay it to the registered shareholder of the share, or you will pay it to his order, or you will pay it to his banker. Okay, so whomsoever is the shareholder whose name is there in the register of members, that is the registered shareholder, to that person you will pay the dividend, or you will pay it to another person to whom he has ordered you to pay it, or you will pay it to his banker. Okay, yes. So these are the persons who will be eligible to receive the dividend. Okay. And guys, dividend always has to be paid only in cash. Now, when I'm saying cash, it does not really mean that it is hard cash. It means that you cannot pay dividend in kind. So, say for example, you are a shareholder of say Colgate company. So, Colgate cannot give you dividend in the form of toothbrush and toothpaste. Okay, that is not possible. Dividend has to be paid in cash. And when you are saying cash, what does cash include? Cash includes check. Cash would include a dividend warrant, or cash would also include anything in electronic mode. So it just means that you cannot pay it in kind. Dividend will not be paid in kind. Also, whenever this section is saying that you will have to pay the dividend in cash, does that mean that the company is stopped from issuing bonus shares? No. So this is just a clarificatory point. This is just a clarificatory point which is saying that just because we are asking you to pay dividend in cash does not mean you cannot issue bonus shares, does not mean you cannot make partly paid up shares fully paid up. You can do that. You can issue bonus shares. You can do a bonus call, that is you can make the unpaid shares of the members of the company fully paid up. That is completely possible. That is completely up to you. You can go ahead and do that. Yes. Okay. But once the dividend is declared, then you cannot convert it into bonus. I cannot tell you, oh, I'll give you dividend, and then I'll be like, no, 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 I will give you bonus shares now. That is not possible. So once dividend is declared, dividend will have to be paid. Once dividend is declared, dividend will have to be paid. Okay. But just because we are saying that dividend will have to be paid does not mean that you cannot issue bonus shares. Okay, or you cannot what do you say, do a bonus call. That is not what the section is saying. So this is just a clarificatory point which says that if you want to issue bonus shares, you can. If you want to do a bonus call, you can. Okay, yes, but that shall not happen after declaration of dividend. Okay, so I cannot convert the dividend which is declared into bonus. I'll first tell you I'll give you 10,000 of dividend, then I'll be like, no, I'll give you 10,000 of bonus shares. That is not possible. Okay, yes. So that is the point. And the last point which has been covered over here is that declaration of dividend on equity shares will be prohibited in certain situations. So which are the situations which they have spoken about over here? They have spoken about the prohibition will be there in case the company has done a non-compliance. Okay, of which section? Of section 73 or section 74. Okay, section 73 is the section which is talking about prohibition on acceptance of deposit from public. Okay, and 74 is repayment of deposits accepted before the commencement of this act. So they have very clearly stated over here that declaration of dividend on equity shares of the company shall be prohibited if the company fails to comply with the provisions of which sections? 73 or 74, till the time the failure continues. Okay, so till the time the failure is continuing of 73 or 74, can the company declare dividend on equity shares? The company cannot declare dividend on equity shares till the time there is a non-compliance of section 73 or 74. Okay, yes. So that is the point with respect to that. Okay, and thus over here we have completed the provisions of section 123 along with a gist of rule 3. Yes, again for the question I will give you a link in the description with respect to rule 3. Okay, so now let us go ahead and talk about section 124, which is going to be talking about unpaid dividend account. So now we are going to be having a look at the provisions of section 124, and 124 is talking about what? It is talking about unpaid dividend account. Okay, so what is the name of the section? The name of the section is unpaid dividend account, the provisions of which are going to be covered under 124 of Companies Act 2013. So what is the logic of this particular section? So guys, the logic of this particular section is that once the dividend is declared by the company in the annual general meeting, once the dividend is declared by the company in the which meeting? In the annual general meeting, then that particular dividend is not the money of the company anymore. That particular dividend is not the money of the company anymore. So company will have to make sure that the company is distributing this amount, okay, as per the provisions of 124. Okay, so the time given for the distribution of this money by the company is a period of 30 days from declaration. Okay, so after the company has declared dividend, okay, from the date of declaration of dividend, company has a period of how many days? Company has a period of 30 days. Company has a period of how many days? 30 days, okay, for the purposes of distributing the dividend. But any dividend which is not distributed or paid or claimed, okay, within a period of 30 days, that particular dividend will have to be transferred within the period of next 7 days, okay, to a special account, okay, a separate account opened by the company called as the unpaid dividend account. So any amount which has not been distributed by the company, not paid, not claimed within a period of how many days? 30 days of declaration, that will have to be transferred by the company within the next how many days? 7 days, okay, to a special account. So company shall transfer the total amount of dividend. Company shall transfer the total amount of dividend which is unpaid or unclaimed to a special account opened by the company, okay, yes, in a scheduled bank. In a which bank? In a scheduled bank, okay, called as the which account? Called as the unpaid dividend account. Yes, so whatever amount is undistributed within a period of 30 days of declaration, that will have to go within the next 7 days, in a separate bank account, okay, in a scheduled bank, okay. And what will be the name of that account? The name of the account will be unpaid dividend account of the company. Yes, okay, so that is what the company has to do. But if the company makes a default in transferring that amount, what is the company doing? Company is making a default in transferring the amount to the which account? Unpaid dividend account. So if the company say is not transferring the amount in 7 days after 30 days, is not transferring the amount within 7 days after 30 days, then in that case, company will have to pay interest on the amount not transferred. Company will have to pay interest on the amount not transferred. And how much interest will have to be paid? Interest will have to be paid at the rate of 12% per annum. Interest will have to be paid by the company at the rate of 12% per annum on the amount which is not transferred to, the which account? Unpaid dividend account. See, what is the logic? The logic is that once the company has declared dividend, it is not the company's money anymore. Okay, so that is why distribute it within 30 days. If you are not able to distribute it within 30 days, okay, then transfer it to the unpaid dividend account within a period of next 7 days. Yes, if you are not transferring it, it means you are utilizing it. And if you are utilizing it, you will have to pay interest on it. If you are utilizing it, you will have to pay interest on it. So if the company makes a default in transferring the amount to the unpaid dividend account, interest will be payable on that amount, okay, which is not transferred. At what rate? At the rate of 12% per annum. Okay, yes, and whatever is the interest which is accruing, whatever is the interest that is at the rate of 12% per annum, whatever is the interest accruing on the amount, shall be for the benefit of the members of the company in proportion to the amount which is remaining unpaid to them, so this will be proportionately, distributed to the persons to whom this particular amount is unpaid, to whom this particular amount is unpaid. So the interest will be proportionately for those people for whom the money has not been distributed. Yes, so that is the point. So within 30 days, try and make the payment. If not, within next 7 days, transfer the amount which is unpaid or unclaimed. Okay, to another account called as the unpaid dividend account. Yes, if you make a default, then you will have to pay interest on it. And how much interest will you have to pay? You'll have to pay interest at the rate of 12% per annum. Okay, now the next point. What is the next point with respect to 124 saying? The next point says that after you have transferred the money to the unpaid dividend account within a period of 90 days of the transfer, within a period of how many days of the transfer? 90 days of the transfer to the unpaid dividend account, company is going to make a statement. Company is going to make a statement of the amount transferred to the unpaid dividend account. Okay, and is going to place it on the website of the company, and is going to place it on the website of the company, if any, and on any other website approved by the central government for that particular purpose. Okay, so what is this statement? This statement is going to be basically giving what? It is going to be basically giving an idea with respect to whose money is unpaid, which shareholders' money is unpaid. So that statement is made within how many days of transfer to the unpaid dividend account? Within 90 days of transfer to the unpaid dividend account. Yes, and that will be put on the website, company's website and some other website if it is approved by the central government. Yes, so that is the point. Now, once the money has been transferred to the unpaid dividend account, it is going to stay in the unpaid dividend account for how long? It is going to stay in the unpaid dividend account for a period of 7 years from the date of the transfer. For a period of how many years from the date of the transfer? For a period of 7 years from the date of the transfer, it is going to stay in the unpaid dividend account. Yes. Now over here in between, can some member come and claim that money from the unpaid dividend account? Answer is yes. Any person can come and claim that money from the which account? From the unpaid dividend account. So any person claiming to be entitled to the unpaid dividend, okay, yes, can come and claim that money, can apply to the company for the payment of the amount of money so claimed. So any person who wants it can go and make an application to the company and can ask that money from the company which has been already transferred by the company to the unpaid dividend account. So company will give it to him. If the procedure is followed, he can get that money back from the company. But if you haven't claimed that money back from the company from the unpaid dividend account, that money is going to stay in the unpaid dividend account for a period of how many years? For a period of 7 years from the date of transfer. For a period of 7 years from the date of transfer. It is going to stay in the which account? In the unpaid dividend account. And after 7 years, what will have to be done with this particular amount? This particular amount after 7 years and the interest on that amount will be transferred to a fund which is created by the government. Okay, will be transferred to a fund which is created by the government as per the provisions of section 125, called as the Investor Education and Protection Fund. Called as the Investor Education and Protection Fund. So the government has created a fund called as IEPF, Investor Education and Protection Fund, under the provisions of section 125 of Companies Act 2013. And whatever amount, okay, is unpaid or unclaimed, okay, of the dividend in the unpaid dividend account for how many years from the date of the transfer? For 7 years from the date of the transfer, that amount plus interest on that amount will be transferred to the IEPF as per the provisions of section 125. Okay, guys. So this is basically the provision of section 124. Okay. After declaration, pay it within a period of how many days? 30 days. If not, transfer it to the unpaid dividend account within the next 7 days. Make a statement of the persons to whom the money is unpaid within 90 days of transfer. The money is going to be in the unpaid dividend account for a period of 7 years. In between, if a member wants, he can come and claim it back from the company. Okay, yes. But any amount which is unpaid and unclaimed in the unpaid dividend account for a period of how many years from the date of the transfer? 7 years from the date of the transfer is going to go to which fund? Investor Education and Protection Fund along with the interest on it. And IEPF is a government fund which is set up under section 125. Okay guys, so this completes the provision of section 124. So now we just have to cover one more provision under section 124, which is going to be talking about what? Which is going to be talking about transfer of shares to the Investor Education and Protection Fund. Okay, yes. So this provision of section 124 says that all the shares, okay, in respect of which the dividend has not been claimed or not been paid by the company for a period of how many consecutive years? 7 consecutive years. Then whatever dividend has to go to IPF, that though will go to IPF, that we have already seen. Okay, but will those shares also be transferred to IPF? Will those shares also be transferred to IPF? Answer is yes. So say for example, okay, dividend has not been claimed on the shares in the year 2014-15, 15-16, okay, 16-17, 17-18, 18-19, 19-20, and 20-21. So now dividend was not claimed on these shares, say some 100 shares, which were held by a shareholder, say Mr. Y of the company. So if Mr. Y has not collected the dividend on the shares, for how many consecutive years he has not collected? He has not collected it for a period of 7 consecutive years. He has not collected it for a period of how many consecutive years? 7 consecutive years. Okay. Then in that case, if he has not collected the dividend, not claimed the dividend on his shares for a period of how many consecutive years? For a period of 7 consecutive years, then in that case, these 100 shares belonging to Mr. Y, these 100 shares belonging to Mr. Y will also be transferred in the name of IEPF. What is the logic over here? The logic over here is that if Mr. Y has not collected dividend on his shares for 7 consecutive years, back to back, the word used is consecutive. That means back to back for 7 years he has not collected dividend on his shares. It means he is not interested in these shares, or probably he is not available over here. So that is why he has not collected these shares. Probably he is missing or he is dead or something of that sort. So that is why they have said that if a particular member of the company has not collected the dividend, not claimed the dividend on his shares for a period of how many consecutive years? For a period of 7 consecutive years, then these shares of his will also be transferred in the name of Investor Education and Protection Fund. Investor Education and Protection Fund. So, transfer of shares to IPF, what is the point saying? All the shares in respect of which dividend has not been paid or claimed for a period of how many consecutive years? For a period of 7 consecutive years will also be transferred to the Investor Education and Protection Fund along with a statement containing the prescribed details. And in case of a dividend, okay, which is paid or claimed at any time during the period of those 7 consecutive years, means if there is a break, okay, in between, if the shareholder is collecting the dividend on his shares, then the shares are not going to be transferred to the IEPF. Okay, and any claimant of the shares, okay, any claimant of the shares which have been transferred to the IPF, can he go and claim those shares back from the IPF? Yes or no? Answer is yes, he can go and claim those shares back from the IPF by following the prescribed procedure. So say in our example, say for example, the shareholder collected, Mr. Y, who is the shareholder, is collecting the dividend in the year 2017-18. For the year 17-18, he is collecting the dividend. Again, for the year 21-22, he is not collecting the dividend. So it is 7 years, but it is not 7 consecutive years because there is a break in between in 17-18. In between in 17-18, if he is collecting his dividend on the shares, then there is a break. Now will his shares be transferred to the IPF? Answer is no. It has to be back to back. How many years? It has to be back to back 7 years. It has to be 7 consecutive years. So if he does not collect the dividend on his shares for a period of 7 consecutive years, only then his shares will be transferred to the Investor Education and Protection Fund. Now, let us talk about the provisions of Section 125. See, why was Section 125 created? 125 was created for setting up this fund called as Investor Education and Protection Fund. So, what is the basic purpose of Section 125? The basic purpose of Section 125 is to establish Investor Education and Protection Fund. Okay, so to create any statutory fund like this, it cannot be done without the power in the law. Okay, so to set up any fund, okay, or to set up any tribunal, the power has to be there in the act, the power has to be there in the law. So Investor Education and Protection Fund has been set up under Section 125 of Companies Act 2013. So 125 has been basically created for what purpose? It has been basically created for the purposes of setting up Investor Education and Protection Fund. So power to set up the Investor Education and Protection Fund has been given to whom? Has been given to the central government. Yes, and central government has established an IEPF today. Then they have mentioned certain amounts under Section 125 which will have to be credited to IEPF. One of the amounts which we already know as per the provisions of Section 124 is the amount which is lying in the unpaid dividend account for a period of how many years? 7 years. For a period of 7 years. So that amount does go to the Investor Education and Protection Fund. That amount does go to the Investor Education and Protection Fund. Over and above that, there are certain other amounts which will also go to the Investor Education and Protection Fund. The amounts include the amounts given by the central government, donations given by the central government, state government. Yes, amounts which are application money which is not claimed by anybody for a period of 7 years or more. Yes, mature deposits, nobody has claimed it for a period of 7 years or more. These are the examples of other amounts. Which will go to Investor Education and Protection Fund. Yes. Then what is the purpose for which IEPF has to be utilized? There are various purposes. One of the major purposes for the betterment of the investors, for the protection of investors, for the education of investors. Yes, for these purposes, the fund is going to be utilized. It can also be utilized for refunding the amount, okay, to the persons who have a right to claim this amount back from the IEPF. So the IEPF authority, which is set up, okay, under Section 125, that is the authority which is running IEPF, will utilize the Investor Education Protection Fund amount as per the provisions of 125 for investor education, protection, for the purposes of refunding the amount, etc. This IEPF amount will be utilized. Yes. Now, can any person whose dividend amount or deposit amount has gone to the IEPF, will he have a right to claim the amount from the IEPF? Answer is yes, he will have a right to claim that amount from the IEPF. He will have to make an application to the Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority. So he will have to make an application to the IEPF authority, and after making the application to the IEPF authority, will he be eligible to get a refund of this amount from the IEPF authority? Answer is yes. So any person who is claiming to be entitled to the amount, okay, which is there in the Investor Education and Protection Fund, can apply for the payment of the money claimed. Can apply to the IEPF authority for the payment of the money claimed. Yes, so that is possible. You'll have to follow the prescribed procedure given in the rules. Now, the provision of Section 125 also states, okay, that how will the IEPF authority be set up. So the IEPF authority, for the purposes of administration of the IEPF authority, central government is going to appoint certain persons. So central government will appoint a chairperson. Okay, central government will appoint other persons who are the members of the IEPF, which will be limited to maximum 7. And central government will also appoint a CEO of the IEPF. So these are the appointments which are going to be made by the central government for the administration of the Investor Education and Protection Fund. It will have a chairperson, it will have other members limited to 7, it will have a chief executive officer. Okay, then what is another provision of Section 125 stating? 125 also states that the accounts and other records of the IEPF shall be kept properly in a separate format. Yes, it will be separate accounts will be kept by the IEPF authority of the IEPF. Other relevant records will be kept separate by the IEPF authority. Yes, so the funds of IEPF should not be mixed with other funds and all. Yes, and proper records will have to be kept, and IEPF authority will decide how to keep these records and all after consulting whom? So after consulting the CAG. Okay, so IEPF authority is going to maintain separate accounts and other relevant records after consulting the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Yes. Then how is the IEPF authority going to spend money out of IEPF as per the objects which we have discussed? For betterment of investors, for betterment of, and protection of investors, for their education. Yes. Then who is going to do the auditing of the accounts of IEPF? So auditing of accounts of IEPF will be done by the CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Okay. Then another obligation which has been put on the IEPF authority, which the IEPF authority has to comply, is that the IEPF authority has to every year, that is annually, forward the copy of their audited accounts and audit report. Forward the copy of their audited accounts and audit report. Audited accounts and audit report. Okay. To whom? To the central government. Okay. That too they will have to do audit report and audited accounts. Plus, they will also have to make an annual report. The IEPF authority will also have to make an annual report giving a full account of its activities and is going to forward this to the which government? And is going to forward this to the central government. Okay, so audited accounts audit report will have to go to the central government. Plus another thing which has to go to the central government is the annual report. Yes. And now, what is the central government going to do? The central government is going to cause that annual report and audit report, okay, given by the CAG. That audit report and annual report will be placed before Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. It will be shown to the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha when they are in session. Okay, so it is going to be laid down before each house of the parliament. What? Annual report also and audit report also given by the CAG, because CAG is doing the audit of the IEPF. Fine. So this was the provision of section 125. So 125 basically set up IEPF, gave powers to the IEPF authority, and section 125 also stated which are the amounts which will go to the IEPF and what are the purposes for which the IEPF fund is going to be utilized. Yes, guys. So that is the provision of section 125. Now let us have a look at the provision of section 126. See, what is 126 talking about? 126 is talking about a situation, okay, where the instrument of transfer of shares, that is the transfer deed, instrument of transfer of shares, that is the transfer deed, has been delivered to the company for registration, but the transfer has not yet been registered. In such a case, if in between the company decides to declare a dividend, or in between the company decides to come up with a rights issue or bonus issue, okay, then what will happen to those shares, or what will happen to that particular dividend? I hope you have understood the situation. What is the situation? What has the company done? The company, so company, it's a Limited. Company A Limited has received what? Company A Limited has received a transfer deed. Okay. Yes, that is also referred to as what? Instrument of transfer that has been received by the company. Okay, but has the company registered the transfer yet? Answer is no, company has not yet registered the transfer. So Mr. A has transferred 100 shares, okay, to Mr. B. Mr. A is the transferor. Mr. B is the transferee. When the company receives this transfer deed by which Mr. A is transferring these 100 shares to Mr. B, company should do what? Company should make a change in the register of members. They should remove the name of Mr. A and add the name of Mr. B over here for these 100 shares. Okay, that is called as the registration of the transfer. But has this registration of transfer happened? Registration of transfer has not yet happened. So what has happened? Company has received the transfer deed, that is the instrument of transfer, but the transfer has not yet been registered. Transfer has not yet been registered. Now, in between this receiving of transfer deed and registration of transfer, if company declares dividend, what will happen to this particular dividend? What will happen to this particular dividend? So what does the law say over here? The law says that where any instrument of transfer of shares has been delivered to the company for registration, but transfer has not yet been registered, and in between company is declaring dividend, then what will happen to that dividend? Generally, this dividend will be transferred to the unpaid dividend account. Normally, it is going to go to the which account? Unpaid dividend account, which is set up under 124. Okay, but if the company is authorized by the registered holder, if the company is authorized by the registered holder, in the current situation, the registered holder was Mr. A. So if Mr. A, who is the current registered holder, is authorizing the company in writing, to pay the dividend to the transferee. To pay the dividend to whom? The transferee. Transferee was Mr. B over here. So if Mr. A, the registered holder, is giving an authority to the company in writing, saying that you can pay this dividend to Mr. B, the transferee, then in that case, the dividend will be paid to Mr. B, the transferee. Otherwise, the money is going to go to the unpaid dividend account. Otherwise, the money is going to go to the which account? Unpaid dividend account. Okay. So, in case of dividend being declared in between, what is going to happen? Normally, it is going to be transferred to the unpaid dividend account. But if the company is authorized by the which holder? Registered holder in writing to pay the dividend to the transferee specified in the instrument, yes, then the company shall pay the dividend to the transferee. Okay. So that is the law over there. Okay, with respect to dividend being declared by the company in between. Yes, but what if the company is coming up with rights issue? Rights shares company is issuing as per section 62, or bonus shares company is issuing. Okay, then in that case, the rights shares or bonus shares will be offered to whom? Will it be offered to the transferor, Mr. A, or will it be offered to the transferee, Mr. B? Okay, they will say it will be given to neither. Currently, we will keep these right shares and bonus shares pending. Okay, keeping them pending is also referred to as keeping them in abeyance. Keeping them pending is also referred to as keeping them in abeyance. Okay, so whatever are the right shares, bonus shares which are declared by the company in between the receipt of instrument of transfer and registration of transfer, those right shares, bonus shares, etc. will be kept in abeyance. That is, currently they will be kept pending. It will be not given to either Mr. A or Mr. B. They will wait for the transfer to be registered, and then it will be offered accordingly to the transferee. So right shares, bonus shares currently would be kept pending, would be kept in abeyance. So guys, this is the provision of section 126. Okay, which has been specifically created for the situation where instrument of transfer has been delivered to the company, but transfer has not yet been registered. So if it is dividend, currently you will just immediately put it in the unpaid dividend account. Okay, and then after the registration of transfer happens, the other person, the transferee, can claim it from the unpaid dividend account. But if the registered holder is giving in writing into the company that you should pay to the transferee, then it will be paid to the transferee. But what about right shares, bonus shares declared in between? Okay, they will not be given to anyone. Currently, you will keep them pending. That is, you are going to keep them in abeyance. Yes, so that is the provision of section 126. Fine. Now, going ahead, let us talk about the provision of section 127. So what is 127 going to be basically talking about? So 127 talks about punishment for failure to distribute dividend. Okay. See, listen, I had told you this point. Once the company has declared dividend, any dividend, interim dividend, final dividend, it is not money of the company anymore. It is the money which is going to be belonging to the member of the company. Yes. So it is the company's duty. It is the company's duty to pay that Okay, dividend. Within a period of how many days of declaration? Within a period of 30 days of the declaration, the company should pay it. But where the company has declared dividend and the dividend has not been paid or dividend warrant has not been posted within 30 days of the declaration to any shareholder who was entitled to the payment. In such a situation, there is going to be a penalty provision. In such a situation, there is going to be a penalty provision. Yes, and I normally do not suggest for you to, take the effort to remember the penalty. But section 127 is an important penalty provision. So do try and remember the provision. So what is the penalty provision over here? If the dividend is not paid or claimed, if the dividend is not paid or dividend warrant has not been posted within 30 days of declaration, there is a penalty provision for the director of the company who is knowingly a party to the default, and there is a penalty provision for the company also. So every director of the company who is knowingly a party to the default, he is aware that there is a default happening. Okay. Then in that case, he will be punishable. He will be punishable with what? Imprisonment. So every director of the company who is knowingly a party to the default will be punishable with imprisonment. How much imprisonment? Imprisonment of maximum. Imprisonment of maximum. How many years? 2 years. Plus he will also be punishable with fine. Okay, which is minimum 1,000 rupees for every day during which the default continues. Minimum 1,000 rupees for every day during which the default continues. So there is a punishment provision for whom? For the director. If he is knowingly a party to the default, imprisonment can go up to 2 years. Yes, fine can be minimum 1,000 rupees per day during which the default continues. Okay, so this is for the director who is aware of the default and is not doing anything to rectify the default. Yes, but what about the company? The company over here will have to pay a penal rate of interest. And how much is the penal rate of interest? It is simple interest at the rate of 18% per annum. It is simple interest at the rate of 18% per annum during the period for which the default continues. Okay, guys. So if you do not post the dividend warrant and you do not pay the dividend within a period of how many days of declaration? 30 days of declaration. Then as per section 127, there is a penalty provision for the company, that is penal interest rate at the rate of 18% per annum, plus director who is knowingly a party to the default, he is having an imprisonment which can go up to 2 years, plus fine of minimum 1,000 rupees per day during which the default continues. Okay, but section 127 had certain exceptions. Section 127 had certain exceptions. So what is the provision saying? The provision says that, the provision says that in certain exceptional situations, the punishment under section 127, the punishment under section 127 will not be applicable to the company. So which are the situations where the punishment is not applicable to the company? First situation is reason of operation of law. Okay, so if there is a law which is not allowing the company, to pay the dividend, then dividend will not be paid. So the reason is operation of law. Reason is what? Operation of law. So if the law is not permitting the company to pay the dividend, will the company be liable under section 127? No. Will the director be liable? Answer is no. So the first exception is reason of what? Operation of law. The second exception is that the shareholder of the company has given some directions. Okay, the shareholder of the company has given some directions to the company. Okay, but compliance with those directions is not possible. So if the shareholder of the company has given you some particular branch of some particular bank and is asking you to deposit the money in that particular bank account, but that bank is closed or that branch is not there or there is some fault in the name of the shareholder in that account, then in such a situation compliance with the directions given by the shareholder is not possible. Is it company's mistake? No, it is not company's mistake. Okay, and has the company communicated? This part is most important part over here. Has the company communicated this to the shareholder? Answer is yes. Company has communicated this to the shareholder. Then in that case, company will not be liable under section 127. Director and company will not be liable under 127. So first reason when company will not be liable is operation of some law. Second is when the shareholder has given some direction, it cannot be complied with, and that has been informed to him, then company is not liable. The next point is the situation, okay, where there is a dispute regarding the right to receive dividend. So say for example, there is a case which is going on in the court. Say the shareholder has died, okay, and his children are probably, disputing the right to receive those shares, okay. So that is why who is going to be the proper legal heir, we don't know, okay. There's a dispute going on in the court. So if there is a dispute which is going on in the court, the company does not know whom to pay the dividend to. All the children are fighting over the property of the father. So now over here, if there is a dispute with respect to the right to receive dividend, okay, company does not pay the dividend, company keeps it pending, company puts it in unpaid dividend account. Over here, is it the company's mistake? No. Will the company or director be liable under 127? Answer is no. They will not be liable. Okay. Then another reason where company will not be liable is when the dividend has been lawfully adjusted, okay, by the company against any sum due to the company from the shareholder. So if, for example, the shareholder had to pay some money to the company, maybe it is call money, okay, shareholder has not paid it, okay, and company declares dividend. So what will company say? You don't give me call money, I will not give you dividend. We will lawfully adjust the dividend against the call money. So over here, shareholder had to pay money to the company had to pay dividend to the shareholder. What they have done? They have done a lawful adjustment. If this lawful adjustment is done, will there be a penalty under 127? Answer is no, there will be no penalty under 127. And the last situation is where there is any other reason. Now this is a general point which they have included over here, where there is any other reason for failure to distribute dividend, but this reason is not due to any default on the part of the company. Because of some other reason, the company is not able to pay dividend, but it is not the company's mistake. If it is not the company's mistake, will the company be liable under 127? Answer is no, there will be no offense only under 127. So five cases where the punishment under 127 will not be applicable. First is operation of law. Second is the shareholder has given directions which cannot be complied, okay, and that has been communicated to him. Third case is there is a dispute with respect to the right to receive dividend. Fourth case is the dividend has been lawfully adjusted. The dividend has been lawfully adjusted against the sum due to the company from the shareholder. And last is a general point, that is any other reason where it is not the default of the company, then the company is not going to be liable. Okay, so guys, this completes the provision of section 127 and also a revision of the chapter called as a dividend. We have revised all the sections from 123 to 127 over here. I hope the class was helpful. Take care.